You're clicking it or I'm clicking it?
Oh.
From a super secret location deep within the mountains of Colorado, it's time to strap up, strap in, or strap on with your host, Shenanigans in One Shot. It's From the Ashes Radio!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to From the Ashes Radio, live on About Face Media. I am joined by my hetero life mate and dead sexy motherfucker, Seth One Shot. What's up, homeboy? How you living?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Dude, they are working me into the ground. How about you?
I don't believe you.
So for those that don't know, I got tasked with a super secret mission to the state of California. Thankfully, our underground network was able to get me into a safe house and mostly protect me from the land of fruit and nuts. I have, there are liberals hunting for me everywhere here, but I have managed to dodge them so far. Thank you to our network who has kept us safe while we are here in this state. I'm actually one of the local nationals is actually preparing one of their local cuisines as we speak. He slaughtered an animal and it is now cooking it over an open fire right in front of me. It's pretty badass.
I think that was a local cuisine for there.
It is not. It is not normally
lentils and
yes,
tofu.
Yes, they keep trying to offer me saltgrass shakes and things like that. But again, thankfully, he's keeping me fed. So, did you want to say hi to the listening audience? I'm not sure if you'll be able to understand him. So it's not everyone here speaks Californian, but that's okay. So yes,
you have your pants still on. What a
I have
weirdo!
my pants on. It's a special show. Everything's a little different. I have pants on. Shenanigans isn't sitting next to me. We're gonna see how this energy works out. Maybe it works out better if we're not next to each other.
Introduce yourself to the audience, man. Say hi. Tell them who you are.
So my name is Vincent Ubon. Like military?
Sure, go ahead. Tell them who you are. Yeah, man.
I served from 2007 to 2011. I was with 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines. I was a machine gunner. And yeah, that's me. After that went to college, got a job at NAVC. So still working for the Navy, and I enjoy it.
Now, how are you able to stay safe here in California, being a, your background and all, being a Marine and loving guns, and obviously you're a huge fan of the meat and things like that. How do you stay safe?
Meat.
Love the meat. You're on just the right show.
Meat connoisseur over here. I don't know. Guess I just do me.
I mean, clearly you don't eat a lot of tofu, so
yeah, I eat chips.
Yeah. Hey, he also rolls. He's a 10th Planet guy.
Yeah, I'm a weirdo.
Oh man, you do that to me. Apocalypse, twisted, inverted. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Mission Control, the 007.
Honey stick, the honey hole. Some weird things. Dude, I don't even know all those.
I was going to say, I thought it was called the honey hole, not the honey stick. You're playing.
There is a honey stick, so it's a counter to the honey hole. Weird.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like the way you two flirt.
Have you ever kissed a dude?
Oh man.
Yeah, you want him? I gotta take care of my meat.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today's show, in remembrance of what happened to our nation 22 years ago, September 11th of 2001, we are not having any segments. There will be no Private Carl. Allie is not going to join us. O'Connell West is not going to join us. Instead, we have a very special guest. And we just want today to be remembered as a day of reverence. Seth and I had a long email conversation, and we just want to make sure that we recognize today for what it is. And it's important to us. It's changed our lives. But anyway, whatever. Hey, let's bring on our guest. Let's talk about that special day. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Captain Roy Gagne of one of the local fire departments there on the East Coast. Roy, how the heck are you, bud?
I'm doing well. How are you?
And they are working me. I'm in a safe location. I'm in a safe house right now. So we're doing okay. I'm not sure if I'm able to venture out at all. I'm a little skeptical. I'm not sure what'll happen. I think I'll get brought into a gay pride march if I leave this location.
There's commies everywhere.
There are. I get it, man.
Just because they change your name to liberal doesn't mean that they're not still commies.
Go back to Colorado eating avocado toast. We're gonna have problems.
Well, I mean, hey, I was out here. I was trying to stay undercover, so I've been teaching yoga while I've been out here, and so just trying to stay as subdued as possible and blend in with the local populace. So
that's pretty undercover for out there.
Got to keep your Birkenflex on.
Exactly.
Wear them everywhere.
As the man who is currently wearing Crocs, I just love it.
Being in California right now, you have to confirm something for me.
Sure.
Do they really require them to register their bicycles?
I can ask some of the local nationals when they come back out.
You have to tell me.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll ask that one. I have seen some pretty weird shit since I've been out here. I mean, it's a beautiful state. It's beautiful out here, but it's a strange place to be. I'll give that. We went to a boat launch the other day, and when you bring your boat to the launch, it stays there for 30 days before you can put it in the lake.
They quarantine.
They quarantine the boats, dude. Blows my mind.
What do they use for a mask? I'm curious.
Well, I guess they put a tarp over the front of it. I'm not really sure. I don't know.
What do they?
I hate to have Ghana Pacific get to the boats.
Roy, what did you say?
Are they trying to make sure it's free of mothballs or something? Like,
I have no idea why they do it. I guess they're just trying to prevent the spread of diseases from other dirty states. I really don't know, man. But yeah, there were boats lined up all over the place, waiting for their 30 days in quarantine before they can get put in the water.
30-day waiting period for getting their narcotics in. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, man, do you have to register your bicycles? One of our listeners wanted to know.
I don't know. Maybe.
Sounds like a firm, probably.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't dare ask about firearms. I'm worried.
All right, Captain. I think the question of the night for me is going to be, I'm going to ask Rob in a minute, but since it is 9/11, since you're out on the East Coast, I know that's like close to you. Where were you the morning of 9/11 when the attacks happened?
So
Yep.
I was working as a paramedic in Danbury Hospital in Danbury, Connecticut. When it happened, I had just gotten back from a call, and the TV was on. No one was really paying attention to it until all the alarms went off on all the news channels saying, special report and all this stuff. And we watched the first, obviously the first plane had already hit. That's what we were watching. And as we were watching it, the second plane hit. Kind of turned to my supervisor at the time, and I was like, that wasn't an accident. It's no longer an accident in my mind. And we pretty much had to balance going on calls and watching the news the rest of the day. Well, for as long as more I was there anyway, because I ended up going down there. So we were pretty close to the city in Danbury. We're probably about an hour and 15 minutes away from the city. Maybe even a little less without traffic, but there's always traffic. So we're pretty close. So it was, everybody was kind of preparing for people to come there, even that far away, just because of the mass of the situation. So everybody was prepping in the ER and everything like that, and all over the hospital, just in case people came to us.
Crazy.
So
What about you, Rob?
I was on a tank range in Baumholder, Germany. and I was listening to the Rush Limbaugh show on AM radio on AFN. I had the only AM FM radio. Stop laughing, motherfucker. I miss Rush. Both of you motherfuckers. Look at you both chuckling. Fuck you guys. I like Rush. So I had an AM radio, and I was because it was the medic track. I had the only AM FM radio, and me and Chris Cooper were chilling in the back of that thing. And they broke in and to say, hey, a plane had just hit the World Trade Center. And I'm like, huh, that's crazy. That sucks. Somebody's going to be working hard. And no joke, a few minutes later, they're like, a second plane has struck the other tower. And then they started talking about the Pentagon and all that stuff. And was like, whoa, what the fuck? So I took the radio out of the vehicle, out of the tank. And I went up to the tower and I found the, that's why we love you, Rob. Thanks, Holly. Took the radio up to the range tower and found the poor first lieutenant who was running that range and like, hey, 2 planes have just struck the towers. And he's like, what are you talking about? And as I told him that, we got the call from range control to shut down the range. They brought all of us in from the range. We hot-footed back to garrison, and we didn't even go home. We got immediately put on a gate and put on gate guard. Took the tank right to the gate and parked it, and we were on gate guard at that moment. What about you, Seth?
You know what? I know we've talked about this before because it has to do with my enlistment date, but I was sitting on the couch and watching it as it happened. I was watching, not morning news, but mid-morning news. I don't think I worked until like noon that day or something like. Either way, I didn't have to be to work till later that day, and so I was sitting there just watching crap TV, and it started going in. And then I'd already been in the talks with, all the branches of the military, to be quite honest. I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. And so it was real easy for me to shoot a text to what my final decision was. The next day I was at MEPS. So
that's awesome. I like that. So, Roy, most of our listeners don't understand the relationship that you and I have. We've been friends since we were roughly 14, 15 years old. I believe it's because did we become friends because you were dating my sister? Is that how that started?
I don't know if the fire department came first or your sister. So
local nationals are laughing now. I wish you had worded that a little bit differently, but now they're chuckling heartily. Anyway, yeah. So friends since we were about 14, went to paramedic school. Not together, but at the same time. And then I left for the Army. You went to work for are we allowed to say the name of your department?
Yeah.
So went to work for Norwalk Fire Department. And you're now a captain and own a company called Promotional Opportunities. Do I have all that correct?
Correct.
And you teach people who are wanting to become firefighters, how to become firefighters and how to get promoted within the fire department?
Mostly the interview process. We coach them through the interview process and get them ready. It's a little bit different than a regular job interview. They're looking for some different dimensions and personalities and things like that. So we tend to focus more on the interview process. We do a little assistance with the coaching on the testing process and things of that nature, and just getting hired itself. But for the most part, we do entry level and promotional interview prep.
Cool. I love it. I'm glad to hear that. So you are a veteran. You served in the Connecticut National Guard. You were a medic?
Yes.
Correct? Yeah, at the time, it was 91 whiskey?
91 Bravo.
91. Wow, you're fucking old, man.
I am.
Even Seth's laughing at that shit. He's like, damn, that guy's fucking ancient.
Today the 21st? No. 11th. It's the
11th.
Yeah, 18 days, my birthday. It's crazy.
60, 70, how are you going to be?
46, same thing.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, let's start at the beginning. Tell us about because the show's aimed at veterans, tell us about your military career and how that started and why, and tell us the background there.
So I had a friend who kind of talked me into it, and I hate him to this day. Who made no, I got out of high school and I went to school in North Carolina in Western Carolina University for about a summer session and a semester, and realized that college was a lot of fun, but classes got in the way. And I figured I needed a little bit more structure. So I came home. I actually joined the Army National Guard then. And I really enjoyed it. I actually toyed with the idea of going active duty, but then I got into paramedic school and did that instead, and got a few jobs as a paramedic. And then my ETS date was August of 2002. And I figured I was going to re-enlist and keep going. But in March of 2001, I got hired on the fire department. So I ETS'd and I focused on that instead.
Okay. And, all right. So now that you get hired with the fire department, you get hired as a paramedic. So walk us through the morning of 11 September.
So we just got back from doing a couple calls. Like I said, we were sitting there watching the TV. They were trying to decide whether or not, we needed to, call more people in and all this. Around that time, they were trying to figure out if we needed to call more people in. They got a call, I guess, at some point, the CEO of AmeriCares or somebody involved in AmeriCares was kind of put in charge of, because all the flights were shut down around the country. So they put them kind of in charge of flights in and out of the city to either, bring supplies or evacuate people or whatever they were going to need at the time. They didn't know it. They didn't know yet what they were going to need. I mean, this was still, 9:30 in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. But I guess that individual knew the CEO of Danbury Hospital, and Danbury Hospital got a call and said, "We have 2 Blackhawks coming from Sikorsky. They can land in Danbury Airport. They're going to fly right over it. Do you have anybody that can go?" So 6 of us jumped in an ambulance, drove down to Danbury Airport, and within, 15, 20 minutes, the Blackhawks landed, picked us up, and we were on our way.
Wow. I mean, any calls to your family, any calls to anybody to say, "Hey, I'm going to ground zero. I'm going to help out"?
A few calls, and I sent an email, because at that point I was actually still in school. I was at Western Connecticut State University at that point. So I sent an email to all my professors saying, "I don't know when I'm coming back." And I ran up to the ER because my now wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was working as a tech in the ER. And I said, "Hey, we're going." And I'll probably be there. I didn't know how long I was going to be there. I just said a couple days, at least. And we were off, and that was it. Called a couple more people in the ambulance on the way.
Who were the other 5 people you went with?
There were a mixture of EMTs and paramedics. Rami Duckworth, paramedic, Dave Bunting, Linda DeFrancesco, and couple. Who else was there? Oh my gosh.
22 years, man. You don't get a lot to forget.
Time does to you, Greg Clemitis was there. So we all jumped in and just took off. There was already somebody in the helicopter. It was I think it was out of the 106th in Westchester. Is that a reserve pararescue unit?
I'm not positive. I mean, I used to know stuff like that. Not anymore.
Down, and he jumped in with us. He was with us on our way there. I didn't see him after we landed, and we left to go to ground zero. So I'm not sure what happened.
How long is the flight from Danbury, Connecticut to ground zero?
It was probably only like 25 minutes.
What's going through your head at this point?
We just didn't know what to expect. Greg was actually heads up, and he stopped at CVS on the way into work because we were calling people in to come help. And he picked up a couple of disposable cameras, really no cell phones at the time. So he picked up a few 2 or 3 disposable cameras and shoved them in his pocket and started taking pictures as we approached Manhattan. And you just see 2 big plumes of smoke coming through all the buildings. It was really surreal. It was a beautiful day. It was a gorgeous day. And we landed on the pier, and we stayed there for about an hour until they found us transportation to go in. And an NYPD van picked us up and drove us in. And on our way in, it turned from a nice, beautiful sunny day to absolute darkness. I mean, there was no light coming through at all, practically.
So some people listening you and I are from the East Coast, we get it. Some people don't know what the pier means. What is the pier?
So there are different landing pads, different helipads all around Manhattan. on the water. They're not actually in the city. They're just on the outskirts on the water. And so Pier 34, they're all numbered. But there's different piers where helicopters can land to bring whomever is going there out. So,
and you have at this point like a uniform. I mean, do you have gear with you? I mean, they send the Jaws of Life in the helicopter with you. What did they send with you?
We basically got in with a couple bags and off, and that was it. So we had I had my uniform on. Everybody had their uniform on just from either being at work or coming into work to help, and they didn't know if they were going to ride the ambulance or they were going to go or what was going to happen. So everybody had a uniform on, and we just grabbed a couple bags and left.
Okay, so you get to the pier, and then you said you had an hour wait before they were able to find transportation?
45 minutes or an hour, because they didn't know where we were going to go at first. They didn't know where we were most needed to help out. But we ended up jumping in an NYPD van, and they drove right to Ground Zero. I mean, we were right through everything. And looking at all the vehicles and the fire apparatus and ambulances that were just crushed and demolished. And it was, people lined up on the street, sitting down, just trying to rest and relax after what they just been through. And it was surreal. And then you get out of the truck, you get out of that van, and you step onto the ground, and it was almost like stepping in snow. There was just dust everywhere. It felt like snow underneath your feet, like powder snow.
Well, and you and I at this point in our lives had we had some friends that were with New York City Fire.
Yes.
And
so we didn't,
Chris.
No, I didn't know if, so one of the guys that I worked with in Danbury was Christopher Blackwell from Rescue 3. We didn't know if he was working that day or not. Like, no one had actually called. Everybody was a little hesitant to call to see if he was working. No one wanted to be rude, in other words. But it took about, we were at Ground Zero for until about 3 a.m. that day, or the next day, excuse me. We got there at about 11 o'clock in the morning, 11:30 in the morning, and we stayed there till 3 a.m. And it took until late evening that another friend of mine from Bridgeport Fire Department walked through the lobby of One Liberty Plaza where we were set up, saw me, looked at me dead in my eyes, and said, "We can't find Blackwell." And that was when I knew he was working, and there was something wrong.
And today, his young son is now stepped into his boots and
yes,
builds his boots on New York City Fire, does he not?
And being extremely successful at it also.
No surprise at all. All right, so, and I don't mean to interrupt and go into offshoots and tangents. I apologize. So tell us about, so you step onto Ground Zero. It's like walking into snow, you said. Tell us about, walk us through 11 a.m. to 3 a.m.
So the first thing we did was pretty much ask somebody where we need to go because we didn't know. They were trying to keep track of everybody that came in, which was next to impossible. I don't even know how anybody would accomplish that. But we ended up going, there was a Burger King pretty much right in that area that they set up kind of, I guess you would say, just a logistics area. We went to the second floor of the Burger King. They gave us hard hats, lights, taped our names to them, gave us masks that just didn't work. We had surgical masks on that lasted all of 30 seconds before they were too mucked up to even wear. But we got all that stuff and went back outside. At that point, it was just, like I said, it was dark. Even though it was the middle of the morning, it was dark. And all you could see was, there's a lot of lighting everywhere and unnatural light and just metal sticking up out of the ground wherever you walked. And we got led over to One Liberty Plaza, which is basically right next to one of the towers that fell. And we set up in the lobby there. There was already people there. The first thing I noticed when we walked in was there were 2 hospital beds set up with a bunch of doctors, surgeons, nurses, and everything right there, ready to handle critical patients as they thought they were going to come in, which ironically, they were still standing there in the afternoon wondering what to do because no one came in for them. So they actually ended up going back to the hospital to help out where they could with responders and such. But we set up in One Liberty Plaza. Basically became an entire aid station. The whole lobby was an aid station. They had a makeshift morgue in the back to keep anybody back there that we needed to, but obviously no one came there. So we just worked the aid station pretty much the entire time. And I would say 90% of who we treated were responders, were firefighters, EMS, police who were coming in, needing breathing treatments, IVs. They were so dehydrated. Just oxygen bottles stacked from wall to wall wherever you could see them. The people were bringing in supplies for that, and just people breathing oxygen and getting breathing treatments, and a couple more severe, medical issues. A couple guys with chest pain and things of that nature. Which, I'm stepping into this and I don't know their equipment. I have FDNY bags everywhere and I don't know where anything is. So, just the sheer frustration of panic of trying to find something that's going to help this person was brutal. It was tough. It was really hard to kind of just like sift through their bags. And after, a few hours, we kind of learned where things were, where the respiratory stuff was, where the cardiac stuff was, that kind of thing. It made it a little bit easier, but, one of us kind of ran oxygen. One of us kind of ran a little, more severe aid station. One of us just kept stacking breathing treatments, and one of us just kept doing IVs. And Rami Duckworth, who is the senior person there out of our group, and the senior paramedic, kind of took over managing us and that area just to try to keep track of what responders we treated. We just keeping track of names and companies that they were a part of, whether they were part of which engine and which truck, just to kind of get a list of people that came through for treatment in case something happened down the road. And just for accountability and tracking also. I mean, it was impossible to keep tabs on everybody.
Because at this point you didn't know if the incident was going to be over or more to come or what.
No, we had no idea if there was more. Every now and then we'd see, a full company of firefighters coming through the lobby with hoses and everything. And they were, going up the stairs or going up the elevator, and somebody would stand up there's like a big security, I guess you would say security desk in that lobby. It was massive. And every now and then somebody would jump up on that security desk and say, "Nobody leave. We know the building's on fire, but the fire department's taking care of it." So they would fire out, they'd come back down, however much time later, and they'd walk out. And they did that probably 2-3 times throughout the day.
Sorry, we know you're on fire. Don't take a break quite yet.
I mean,
Jesus Christ.
The system of how they work down there is a little bit different than what I'm used to anyway. So, they have high rises, they have, standpipes everywhere. I deal with residential and hydrants most of the time. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic in the first place. But we didn't know. We had no idea what was happening outside, really. Every now and then we would take a couple steps outside and see what was happening. But that was our world. That was our world until about 3 a.m., right around 3 a.m.
What kind of injuries and stuff did you see? You said you saw a lot of oxygen, chest pain. I mean, were there any? I know you said you treated a lot of first responders, firefighters, other medics, things like that. Any? I don't know what the right word is. Residents or occupants of the towers, anything like that?
No civilians from the towers. If there was a civilian that came through, they were either part of a relief group or rescue efforts, or they were, walking on the road when it happened. But that was very rare. I don't even really remember too many at all.
Is that because all the civilians / non-responders were they immediately getting trucked out?
Yeah, they were all being evacuated. So most of the people we saw were just responders or people that were there to try to help the effort, because most of the civilians and people that weren't involved in that had already moved on to outside that area.
Dude, absolutely amazing. Yeah, I don't have words for that day. That's amazing.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, we it was probably about 3 a.m. and we kind of looked at each other and said, here we are giving everybody else oxygen and everybody else IVs and everything. And we would have been happy to stay and do it. But there were a couple in our group that were kind of like, I need some water. I need something to drink. I need something to eat. I can't keep going and help other people because I'm going to fall. So we kind of said, oh, we're going to hand the reins over to like the next group that was kind of coming in to help. And we left and we found a place to crash and find some grub. Actually took the subway a few blocks away just because, everything was evacuated. There was nowhere to go. So we took the subway a couple blocks away, found a place to crash, grabbed some food. Our clothes were just demolished, so we did the best we can to clean them, and woke up early in the morning, which was already really early in the morning, but woke up early in the morning anyway. We threw our clothes back on, jumped on the subway, and went back down. And when we got there, by the time we got there in the morning, everything was cordoned off. There was a barrier around everything, and almost every single responder was outside the area waiting to go in to help. Because at that point they had dogs, they had search and rescue crews, like USAR teams, urban search and rescue crews, and things like that. Really trying to listen to see if they could hear anyone, as well as find anybody else in the rubble. So it took a little bit for that to. It was that's when it kind of became slow. That's when it became like a recovery effort, really. But I know there was other people that were found in the buildings later and things like that, but that was necessary to get all the noise and all the people that were talking and yelling and out of the area so that the dogs and the USAR teams could do their job. And it was definitely important. So we walked around the whole thing to see if anybody needed anything. We walked around almost the entire perimeter. And when we found out that, there was plenty of people there, basically the rest of FDNY and EMS and everybody was there. Then we just gave a call and said, how are we getting home? So they sent a helicopter back for us, and they picked us up on the pier that we landed in, and we went back.
What time is this that you're headed back now?
It was probably mid-morning on the Wednesday, on the following day. Mid-morning, early afternoon. Yeah, right around there. Because we spent some time in the morning just seeing if anybody needed anything and seeing what time they were going to open up the barriers to go back in. And by then there were thousands of people there ready to go in and help. So, it was almost too many people at that point. All right, like there was nothing more we could do. It was going to be at that point. So
kind of tapped out your resources at that point.
Well, I mean, not even that. We just knew that there were so many more there. That so many more people had showed up, and we knew it was going to become a methodical effort. And not that we didn't want to stay. It was almost like we didn't know when it was going to open. We didn't know, if they actually needed us. So we figured, what, let's go back. We'll, if they need somebody to come in as like a relief crew later on, or in a few days or whatever, then maybe we'll go back. And we never had to, but that was what our thought process was try to rest up enough to go back if we needed to.
So you head back to Danbury Hospital and you refit, rearm. Tell us what that's like. Talk to us through that process.
We landed back in Danbury Airport. They took us back to the hospital, and immediately our EMS manager was really awesome about it. They took us to the ER, and they said everybody's going to get evaluated. One of the ER docs kind of stopped his day and checked us all out just to make sure we were good, which was awesome. I mean, they were really good about that. They were awesome. So we did that, and just kind of did a little talk amongst ourselves, kind of thing, and went home. And that was it.
Wow. Did Danbury ever send anybody else down there to help out? No,
they never had to. They, I guess at that point, they pretty much said, nobody else, come. Don't come and help. There's just too many people to track, and there's too many people to keep tabs on, and they didn't want anybody else responding and doing that stuff. So my next phone call was because I was still in the Army National Guard at that point, which I went back to school the next day, and I went back in my Army uniform because that afternoon I was going to get, I guess I say activated. It's different than regular Army activation or deployment, of course, but we were activated in the Connecticut Guard just to guard our armories, guard our, all the government buildings, and any other property in the state that was deemed, necessary to guard at that point. So we were doing that for a few days also.
Didn't you end up guarding the local airport, if I remember?
I did for very briefly, and then they actually brought me back to our armory in New Haven. So I think I was there. I was really wasn't that long at all. It was almost a, hey, why don't you come here instead kind of thing. And I went to the armory and I stayed there.
So this is an amazing story. So you respond to ground zero on September 11th, help as many people as you can. September 12th, you're back home. September 13th, you're in an Army uniform and you're guarding your local.
Yeah.
Police. That's the most fucking awesome story I've ever heard, dude.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Seth's face and he's like, I can see on his face, he's like, fuck yeah, man. That's America right there.
It was
That's
the worst.
My kind of fucking dude, my kind of day, or day after day after day. Some good shit, man.
Yeah.
For real.
And that's kind of what I want to dig into a little bit is, we don't avoid politics on this show because, well, no, not completely. Fuck the VA. We avoid politics on the show just because we are a nonprofit. But I want to talk about September 12th and what was going through your head that day. Because I was talking to some people I like a lot and recently, and we had a conversation about like, do you remember the where our nation was mentally on the 12th of September? I mean, we all came together. We were one.
There wasn't a place you could look and not see an American flag. It was incredible how everybody came together.
I agree.
No one cared about the little stuff. It's almost like, we didn't have any. When you don't have any big issues to work with that affect everybody, then everybody thinks that their issue is the most important. And that's where you get people butting heads, and everybody was focused towards the same thing. There was no one that wasn't focused on that one thing.
I imagine you couldn't buy your own coffee or your own beer if you wanted to at that point.
Nowhere. Like we were on the, working back in, even just in Danbury, we were constantly getting, food sent to us and stuff like that. And still to this day, like I go to work at the fire department, and one of our firefighters' friends has a pizza place in Norwalk where I work. And every September 11th, he sends every single station in our city like 5-6 pizzas every single time. Like
Seth, go ahead.
No,
And I just want to touch on that September 12th thing. And what you had said is, I'm going to say this as cautiously as careful, but I think September 12th culturally is one of the greatest days of our country because of that.
Absolutely.
Because it didn't fucking matter who you were, what color your skin was. That day, we stood together as great Americans, raised our flags everywhere, and did everything we could for our brothers and sisters. And I don't mean military. I mean our brothers and sisters, our fellow Americans, or to our left, our right, our front, our rear. Like, it didn't matter, And now we're 22 years later, and I don't even know if it's the height, but that culture is almost fucking opposite. Yeah. We're celebrating fucking piece of shit athletes taking a knee for our flag, not even understanding the sacrifice that has been given for it. It's not just a flag, it's not just a representation. It's the culture of freedom inside of our country that we have repeatedly had to fight for. We've repeatedly gone other places and helped out oppressed people, So I think September 12th, the culture inside of our country, September 12th, as much pain, suffering that we were going through, could have been one of the greatest days of our country because of the way we responded. And I think it lasted for a while.
You
forget how great things were when we were thinking that way.
You made a great point just there. You said, we go to other places and we help people, and we even our military helps other oppressed people. The problem is people don't know that. They don't see that stuff. That's not what sells news. What sells news is what looks bad and what's negative, and the emotionally charged news reports. Like how many places in Afghanistan and Iraq when we were there all these years did we help? No one knows. I know because I have people that were there and friends of mine in the military and things of that nature, but people don't know that they helped with schools. People don't know that they helped with housing. People don't know that they helped with that. The military helped with all those things. Like they don't know. So that's one of the biggest problems is that the news and what the actions taken are so selectively chosen to be, publicized, that it creates that division too, because you're not showing both sides. You're not showing, obviously war is hard. It's tough and it's not pretty, but that's all we saw. And if that's all we see, then how are we supposed to come together around a goal to how are we supposed to manage to bring in both sides of the argument to show them that, yeah, we're doing both things at the same time. That's the only way you're going to get both sides of the argument to come together like we did there. So it's tough.
Where did my hetero life mate just go?
I don't know. He bailed, man.
Wow. Apparently you got sick of your speech, man.
He probably did. He caught me monologuing.
It's exactly. You caught me monologuing. That's awesome. So I'd like to back up just a little bit. We talked about it at the start of this conversation. By the way, this is my new best friend, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Jeff and I did yoga together on a grassy beach this morning.
Torture.
I just got a text message from Seth in all caps. It says, "Fuck, I'm sure that's good."
Well, at least I know it wasn't me now.
I wonder if his internet just shit itself. I want to back up to something that we talked about and something we have a mutual. I'm in, but I'm not there. Hang on a second. Let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can mess with him a little bit. Oh, there he is. There he is. Got him back. Thought I lost you for a second.
I don't know. Something happened there. I have to go back for one quick second before we totally go off. But
your show, homie.
Something you were saying was that the people don't really know what we're doing. And I think that a lot of that is because, I'm your next action movie junkie. But what Americans, what society, not just in America, all around the world, sees is they go to war and they're just in a fucking gunfight all the time. In reality, fights, been in some gunfights, but I spent a whole lot more time rebuilding hospitals, building schools, giving food to fucking people that not just because they don't have it, because it's been taken away from them from dictatorships, terrorists, things like that. That's the 99% I feel like of what we're doing. And it really is misconstrued. I don't think necessarily intentionally in that one aspect. I think there's a lot of intentional misconstruing, but in that area, I don't think it is. I think it's just if you're not in the mix of what's going on or hearing about it, you really think that it's just, Sylvester Stallone's fucking, action flick. So anyway, I just had to touch on that and add to what you were saying, because I totally agree with that.
You're 1,000% right, dude. But that's why you and I do this, is to make sure that these stories get told, and that's exactly why we have this guy on the show tonight, because this story cannot be forgotten.
No, and I'm fucking happy you came on, especially tonight. So
appreciate you guys having me. That's awesome.
Well, we couldn't get anybody else on the show, so that was just you were the last one.
Lack of I'll take options. Just one way or another.
But anyway, so I wanted to back up a little bit. We started to talk about our friend Blackwell and his son. Let's dig into that just a little bit with the last couple minutes that we have together. Where is that young man today?
So he's in the city. When I last spoke with him, he's busy now. He's got not only the career, but he's got kids and everything else. So we know how life gets when that happens. So keeping in touch was a little rough, but the last I knew, he was on an engine company in the city. He had already gotten he's following right in his father's. He's already gotten a couple of awards. for, some rescues that he made and some, grabbing civilians out of fires and things of that nature. From what I know, he's doing a great job. He's doing awesome. He's enjoying it. The funny thing about it is, he had, I don't know if it's still there, but, he always used to talk about it. And Chris, his father would always talk about it. He would always talk about his son, Ryan, coming down and working with him. He would come down to the firehouse with him, and the guys would, sit him in for dinner, and he had his own locker. He had his own locker in Rescue 3 for a while. He was there so much, just hanging out. He wasn't sure if he wanted to follow in his father's footsteps for a little bit there, but I think he ultimately made the right decision. I think he did a really good thing, and obviously it's proven great because he's done some great things, and he's helped a lot of people. So I can't say enough about that. He's followed in it, and he wasn't sure at first, but now, look, if he didn't do that, who knows what would have happened to the people that he's helped. Chris himself, he was absolutely fantastic paramedic and an amazing firefighter. He was one of my best mentors, probably one of a few best mentors I ever had. Somebody who, no matter what, you could get down about your job, you could get down about life, whatever, always wanted to help people, always wanted to do the job and do it to the best of his ability, always. And one of my biggest regrets, he knew I was testing to become a firefighter. I wasn't a firefighter at the time. He knew I was testing. He said, "Hey, why don't you come down and ride out with us one night, and I'll clear it with who I need to clear it with, and come down and ride and see if you like it, take the test." And I said, "Absolutely, I definitely will come down." And he said, "You know what? It was probably about 11 o'clock at night. Our shift ended at 11. He said, after work, let's go down and grab a Guinness. We'll talk about it. We'll figure out a date." And I said, "You know what? I can't." It was probably I don't even know how much I worked that week at that time. I had 4 jobs, going to school full time too. So it was rough. I was like, "I can't, I'm shot, but I definitely will. The next time we work together, we're going to do it." He's like, "Okay." And that was the last conversation I had. And it absolutely kills me. I regret not going out for that beer with him so bad. So
you knew the man. You knew the guy, and he was a part of your life, and he set you up for the path of success. So
no doubt.
It warms my heart to know that men like him existed.
Best attitude. He had the best attitude about the job. He had the best attitude about just, the profession in general, whether it was being a firefighter or a medic. It was awesome. He was incredible.
Very excellent to hear. I agree completely. Did you know anybody else that we lost that day?
Really more acquaintances, just having had gotten together with a couple other people that, not friend. He was 100% the closest person that I knew.
Seth, did you know lose anybody on September 11th?
No, I didn't.
Not Pentagon, not Pennsylvania, not any of that stuff?
No.
You're a little pretty far removed out there. Were you in Colorado then, or were you still in Nebraska?
I was in Colorado then.
Okay.
So
yeah, so a bit of a distance.
Yeah.
So, Roy, let's talk for just a hot second. You and I have had some great conversations about John Stewart and what he's done for first responders from September 11th. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about any ramifications. Do you know anyone that's had long-term deficits or injuries or disease processes from that day? Or
I personally don't know anybody who has had them. I've heard about them, and I know that there's a bunch of things set up for people who were down there that day, especially first responders. They have an entire program out of one of the city hospitals that you call as long as. Right afterwards, it was a little bit rough because they didn't know who was there. So many people had self-dispatched themselves from other areas of the country surrounding New York that they didn't really know who was there. So they actually had like somewhat of a registry. Hey, were you here? When were you here? How long were you here? Kind of thing. Some demographic info and stuff like that, just to kind of track who was there. So now if somebody was to say, "Hey, I'm having some chronic breathing issues or anything like that," as long as they're on file, I believe they can get pretty much free treatment from that facility. But I have never used it. I've never had to, knock on wood. And I don't know anybody who has, but I'm hoping it's still the same. I don't.
Do you know the name of the organization, just for the people that are listening, if they want to support something like that?
I want to say it was Sloan. I think it was Sloan Kettering. At least it was at first. But again, I used it, and it's really kind of more of a passing conversation of, hey, if you have any issues, call these people. So if I misheard, I'm not 100% sure.
Well, to be honest, as your friend, I'm glad you haven't had to use those services.
I'm glad I haven't had to use it.
Yeah.
But, I have heard of a lot of firefighters who were there, working the pile for a long time. They definitely were exposed to some, we all were exposed, but the length of time that they were exposed was not good for them. And there were definitely some people who came down with things afterwards, respiratory issues, cancers, things of that nature. So
are the 5 you deployed with, everybody there doing okay? Everybody's
doing great. Everybody's doing fine. Yeah. No one has had to go, at least not they've told me. We all keep in touch around this time, and no one said anything. So as far as I know, we're all pretty good.
That's what I like to hear. I like hearing that. That makes me happy to hear. Very cool. Seth, what else you got, man? You got anything else?
I've had a burning question this whole fucking segment, but it was not 9/11 related. But Roy, did you ever get a chance to go to a Danbury Trashers game?
What?
Yes, I did.
You did?
As a spectator and as a standby medic.
Oh my God.
What is that?
jealous. Well, see, there's this
Watch
thing.
the documentary, you'll love it.
I have told Rob multiple times, okay, I shattered my leg this year. I spent 4 months just watching TV. And the greatest show I saw was the fucking Netflix documentary on the Danbury Trashers. And I told Rob to watch it, and he just doesn't listen well. So
it's an awesome documentary.
It's great.
Something. What is this?
It was even better live, let me tell you.
It involves hockey, mafia, lots of violence, some good shit.
I'm a huge fan of violence. It's one of my favorite things.
I know. Well, I know you like the show, but you didn't listen.
It's funny. I watched the documentary, and having had been there so many times, and whether we were doing standbys for EMS or whether we were just going as a group or whatever, I'm watching the video and I said, "Oh, there's Greg. Oh, there's somebody else in the stands." I knew so many people that were in the stands.
That is awesome.
No, absolutely not.
You made that question even better by having a good response.
No, Jeff's going to give up his
No,
seat.
I don't have anything else, Rob. Do we need to do a safety brief? Or,
We do. We absolutely do. We do need to do this actual safety brief. Before we do the safety brief, so this is the guy that's been giving me safe haven while I've been here in the state of California. So this is my buddy Brady. Brady and I know each other from the Motorcycle Relief Project. So Brady runs an organization called Ventura for Veterans Relief Project. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you are live, and you're allowed to say fuck on here because we're on an internet-based radio station, and we encourage it. So
hello,
tell
Oxnard, California.
You can't give away our location, man.
Yeah,
We're undercover. So this is my hetero life mate Seth, my co-host, and this is some homeless guy that we found on the street, and he just told us his story. So tell us about Ventura for Veterans in like 2 minutes.
I was inspired through Relief Ride 28 in 2019, April, from MRP. Came back to California after that ride, and it changed my life in many ways. And forever grateful to Tom and Mike Bobbitt. Came back to California and looked for programs similar to that were out here, and found out that there were a few. And spent a couple of years trying to figure out what other programs were in the area and what the needs were, and had an initial plan a couple of years ago, formed a board, got incorporated, got our 501c3 license, and we had a week-long program where we combined outdoor activities to highlight our beautiful coast here, along with evening workshops by local doctors that I worked with for the last 30 years. I've worked in nuclear medicine, PET CT imaging, and general radiology. That was the bulk of my career. I'm a former Coast Guardsman, structural mechanic stationed in Alabama, North Carolina, and in Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, New York, and came back to California. And we have a big veteran population, and there's a big need. And so we have a board that has whittled away a week-long program into 3 days. And so we've had our first event this weekend, and we are planning for numerous events in 2024. We have not decided at this point how many programs. We have a lot of things to work out, but it's been fantastic. We've had great weather, which we expected this time of year, and great participation from physicians and veterans in the community.
If people want to give money to your donate to this great Underground network that you have, how can they donate money?
So right now we're developing our website. Right now we are on social media in a couple of forms, but after this program is complete and we wrap it up with our surveys and evaluations on our content, we're going to have our website finished. And then at that point, I will have to make that available to you. I do not have that now.
We'll post
Poor
it.
Answer.
We'll post it in the show links, folks. Don't you worry. We'll post it after we hang this up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the other cool places you can listen. Great job. You're fired. Get the hell off my studio.
Take care.
Hey, don't forget to check out Combat Flip Flops. Go to combatflipflops.com. Enter the code ABOUTFACE. You get 30% off of your order. We get 15% of that. And also, one shot. You want to take the other one?
I feel like Lance is going to fire us after I'm not doing a dance in short shorts. But
complete.
I love my short shorts. Thigh huggers make the best ones out there. Go to thighhuggers.com. Enter in coupon code, all caps, no space, one shot, and you'll get 30% off. And again, they're going to do some donations to the nonprofit so we can keep bringing the great message to you guys.
Excellent job. Excellent job. Hey, so we have,
Help yourself.
Real meat here in the land, fruits and nuts. Hey, Captain Gagne, before we cut you loose, we always give our guests the last 2 minutes. We may have glossed over something you wanted to spend some more time on. We may have skipped over a question. We may have completely missed an opportunity about something that you wanted to talk about. Take the next 2 minutes. The floor is yours. The world is listening. Talk to the veteran population, whatever you want, man. Go.
I just, what, one thing I want to tell you is, if you're getting discouraged, with how things are in the country right now, just, keep your head up and keep doing what you believe and keep helping other people and keep serving. That's the best you can do. Keep being the best you can be. Just whatever your profession is, just keep doing what you're doing and be the best person you can be to help your, either soldiers side by side, firefighters side by side, other, people on your team at work, whomever it is. Other than that, I love your show, guys. Awesome. I don't get the chance to watch too much. I usually keep it on in the background while I'm putting the kids to bed, just because it's that time of night, but on the East Coast anyway. But keep doing it. Keep working for veterans and keep getting the word out for organizations and things like that. It's awesome work.
My 3 favorite nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. I've never met anyone better at knocking over motorcycles than those 3 young men.
One better at knocking over motorcycles. Motorcycle.
Hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to do safety brief first, Seth, or do you want to do Never Forgotten?
It's all your choice, brother. You got Never Forgotten?
I have one pulled up, yes. So a rather important one for today.
Go for it.
So this comes from the News Times, a newspaper out of Danbury, Connecticut. Coping with the death of her husband may have gotten easier over the last 20 years, but former New Fairfield resident Jane Blackwell says time has not healed all wounds. I guess you find ways because you have to, but it doesn't go away, says the widow of Christopher Joseph Blackwell, a New York City firefighter who grew up in New Fairfield and died rescuing people excuse me, at the World Trade Center in the morning of September 11th, 2001. The 42-year-old father of 3 was a decorated firefighter with Bronx-based Rescue Company No. 3, one of more than 200 New York City fire units dispatched that fateful morning when terrorists hijacked commercial airliners and crashed them into the Twin Towers. Blackwell, who had celebrated his 20th anniversary with the city's fire department just 5 weeks prior, I didn't know that, was among the more than 340 firefighters who died in Lower Manhattan on that day. I never thought he would go to work, not come home, said Jane Blackwell, who still lives in Putnam Lake, New York, where she and her husband relocated from New Fairfield in the mid-'80s. Ladies and gentlemen, today on September 11th, we want to remember firefighter Chris Blackwell. So that's our never forgotten for the day. Let's get through the safety brief. Seth, you want to pick up the ball on this one?
I gotcha. We close out every show with a safety brief, just like we close out our work week in the military with a safety brief. You can have one or two little ideas out there. We're not one of us is gonna carry the whole safety brief. So Roy, you gotta have something. What's your item for a safety brief this week?
Safety brief. Somebody else go first. Let me see what you guys are talking about.
Well, so the safety brief, normally when you get released for final formation on Fridays, you get your safety brief that lasts you through the weekend. But because this show airs on Mondays, you got to have it last through the whole week. So, for example, swim with a buddy. Make sure that you're not swimming by yourself in open waters, and make sure you swim with a buddy. And make sure you use the proper flotation devices. And if you don't swim beyond your benefit, and I believe you guys, you know all about riptides and stuff like that, right? How do you deal with riptides?
Swim parallel to the beach if you get caught in a riptide.
Sound advice right there. What do you got, Seth?
You know, this world has some motherfuckers out there.
It does.
When you wake up or you're standing in formation, you're gonna be that motherfucker, the motherfucker that fucking goes into goddamn ground zero and stays there until 3 o'clock the next morning. That motherfucker that gives his life, or are you the one that's going to support him? Either way, you got to be one. All right, if we're going to make this place better, you feel like you're one of those motherfuckers. Step up, sign the dotted line, help your country out, help your community out, help your friends out, help your brothers out.
Amen.
Agreed completely. All right, Captain Gagne, what do you got?
Well, I'm gonna piggyback that, because even if you do it, and I know I mentioned it earlier in my 2 minutes there, but even if you do that, even if you step up, know that just because you stepped up isn't enough. You have to train and be the best you can be, and keep improving, and just keep improving yourself, and be there for the people that are around you, because that's who's going to be there for you. So that's probably the most important thing anybody could say in the fields that we've been in.
Well said.
That's how you stay safe. That's how you keep your buddies safe.
Very well done. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to From the Ashes on About Face Media. I can't thank you enough for taking time away from your family tonight. We've been joined by Captain Roy Gagne with the Norwalk Fire Department, who spent a couple of hours on the ground on September 11th. Now runs an organization called Promotional Opportunities. If you are a firefighter and you are looking to advance your career, look up Promotional Opportunities. They are going to get you to the next level. You're going to meet this handsome young man right there, and he will take care of you. I can't thank you folks enough for being here on this very solemn day in our nation's history.
Thank you. Thank you much for
being a part of it. And I will see all you motherfuckers back in Colorado as soon as these guys are able to get me evacuated. Later on, bitch.
I'll send QRF if you need it.
I do. I very much do. Later, guys. Good night.
Have a good night.